The UFC is cooking once again. Dana White just announced a UFC 304 main card in Manchester in July. They've got so many huge fights that they've just announced. I need to make a video breaking it all down. We've got Leon Edwards versus Belal Muhammad. Belal Muhammad is getting his title shot. This is not a joke. Belal Muhammad is fighting for the undisputed world championship of the UFC. The date is 2024. It is the 17th of May. On this day, Belal Muhammad got his title shot, but that's not all. Tom Aspinall is defending an interim championship because Jon Jones will not fight him. Neither will Ciryl Gane. And I'll get to that in a second because Ciryl Gane, allegedly, and according to a lot of different sources now, is instead of fighting Tom Aspinall for a title, filming with Netflix for a movie in France. So that's really interesting as well. But Tom Aspinall is now defending his belt in the co-main event against Curtis Blaydes. We've also got other matchups like Bobby Green versus Paddy Pimblett. Amazing matchup. I thought they were going to do the Moicano fight, but they've gone with the Bobby Green one. I don't know what the decision-making was there. Maybe they had already basically booked this before Moicano had even really started pushing for this Pimblett fight, which was really recently because, remember, he didn't really call him out at UFC 300, but like a week afterwards, he started sort of amping up the call-outs, but maybe they just went off of like the day after UFC 300 and went, okay, Bobby Green called him out. We'll give him Bobby Green. So that's a huge fight. And then we've also got Arnold Allen versus Giga Chikadze. Sleeper matchup. You know what? Yeah, one of the easiest fights Arnold's had in the past 2 years, I want to say. Like, it's weird to say that because Giga Chikadze is really dangerous. But it's like, wow, finally a matchup that's not absolutely awful for Arnold Allen, pretty much. But either way, great matchup between him and Giga Chikadze. That should be a really good fight as well. And then, of course, we already knew about this one. Muhammad Mokaev versus Manel Kape. One of the greatest matchups in flyweight UFC history. Let's just be honest with ourselves here. Let's go through all of it. I guess we can start with Leon Edwards versus Belal Muhammad. The AI that they do on the faces here is interesting. Either way, Belal Muhammad, Leon Edwards. This is a sick matchup. First of all, I do think Leon Edwards is going to win because I think Belal Muhammad is a fighter that can be shot selected against. Now, I'm gonna be real with you. I don't really know what that means yet, but I have a vibe about a certain type of fighter that does bad against a shot selector. And I know that Leon Edwards isn't the biggest finisher. Like, he doesn't have a load of finishes. I saw Joaquin Buckley talking about something the other day about how he's been in the UFC for this long and he's only had this many TKOs and Buckley's had this many TKOs instead and all of this type of stuff. Leon Edwards is not really a finisher, but Belal Muhammad is very open for shots. And against a rangier, dangerous, dynamic striker like Leon Edwards, who's going to be at sea level here, which does benefit him. He's going to be on home turf. That benefits him as well. He's just going to be able to get a train from Birmingham to Manchester, and it's not going to be that. I think it's like I want to say it's like a 2-hour train, maybe 2 or 3 hours. Might even be less than that. Might be like an hour and a half. Either way, Leon Edwards on home soil against Belal Muhammad. There's a part of me that thinks that Belal Muhammad might fumble it because you know when something's been kept from you for so long. It's almost like how Leon Edwards' first fight with Usman went. Maybe Belal head kicks Leon in round 5. I guess we'll find out. I feel like Leon Edwards, you know, when he first got his title shot, it's like you've been wanting it for so long. If anything starts not really going your way out there, it starts to get a bit tricky for you. I think the leg kicks are going to be open for Leon Edwards here against Belal. Belal's very heavy on his lead leg. He's very boxing dominant. He does throw some good body kicks. I don't think they're going to be as effective against a guy who can control kicking range like Leon Edwards. The body kick is one of Belal Muhammad's best weapons on the feet. Other than that, he does a bit of a lazy 1-2 with no power whatsoever. And I feel like Leon Edwards is going to be able to sort of... Listen, Brian Barberena nearly finished Edwards, and he don't have no power. So I'm not saying that Belal can't. Belal very much could break down Edwards. Edwards is a guy that doesn't like to fight at pace, and if Belal can enforce and impose a pace on Leon Edwards, he could just break him in this fight as it goes on. But I do think Leon's going to be able to find the target early and often in this fight. And I actually do see an early TKO for Leon Edwards. I'm going to say round 2, he just like catches Belal coming in with like a straight right hand down the pipe or something as Belal tries to like do a jab 2 and cover the distance. Maybe Leon just sort of blasts a right hand over the jab and sleeps Belal Muhammad. We'll see. I feel like Leon Edwards is going to win. Tough matchup for both of them. Matchup that we've been waiting for a long time. Big matchup as well. If Belal Muhammad is a UFC world champion come July the 28th, chase your dreams, people. Anything is possible. We move on. Tom Aspinall versus Curtis Blaydes. Well. Ultimate Giga Chad move from Tom Aspinall. Jon Jones, you don't want to fight? I ain't waiting around for you. What, you some champion or something? He ain't waiting around for no undisputed champ that ain't fighting no contenders to, like, tell him when he's going to fight. He's going to defend the interim title. Absolute Chad move by Tom Aspinall. Like, we see a lot of this with interim champs. Like, Colby did this. Remember when Usman got the shot against Woodley and Colby didn't? He then went to fight Lawler, though, to be fair. So he actually did do this. I take it all back. But we've had some moments where we get people that are interim champs or even just number 1 contenders get like very entitled. They don't even have to have an interim belt. We've had situations where someone gets a few good wins, they get to number 2 or number 1 in the rankings, and all of a sudden they don't want to take any more fights. They'll wait for their shot type thing. Tom Aspinall is saying no to that. You ain't going to delay my career, Jon Jones. I'm fighting Curtis Blaydes. Now, Curtis Blaydes is a very tricky matchup for Tom Aspinall. Very tricky matchup for Tom Aspinall. I do think Tom Aspinall's better than him. I do think Tom Aspinall's going to win. To be honest with you, watching Jailton Almeida versus Curtis Blaydes, I know a lot of people saw that as Jailton Almeida, you know, being exposed and fraud checked, and he did. He broke at the first sign of any adversity ever. That's why he chose a wet blanket style starting his career, because he knows he ain't a warrior. Tom Aspinall, after watching that Jailton Almeida fight and watching Jailton consistently be able to take Curtis Blaydes down whilst being so many pounds of muscle lighter than him, although people saw that as Blaydes fraud checking him in round 2, I saw that as, wow, Almeida just fucking ragdolled him for round 1. Didn't get dominant position or anything, but he just did what he wanted to him in the grappling for an entire round. I think Aspinall can also secure takedowns here, and he shouldn't sort of like second guess himself in that department. I think that Almeida fight should be like, okay, I can grapple if I want to as well. So I think that's going to actually help Aspinall, because I think in the first fight that they had, I think he thought, this is the best counter grappler in the division. I'm going to have to strike with him. I've got a bad knee. Let me rush. Let me go forward. He threw a flying knee in the first 5 seconds of the fight. And then they just started trading immediately. There was no patient. There was no footwork on the outside like we saw against Pavlovich. There was no low kicks at range. There was none of that. Aspinall is open for shots. The good thing about the Jones matchup for Aspinall is that Jones ain't been able to drop a single fighter ever. Maybe Rashad Evans with an elbow or some kind of shot, if I'm not mistaken, just for a moment. But DC, but it got overturned to a no contest, so the fight never happened. It was a PED cheat fight. But other than that, with his hands, Jones don't drop no one. He's got no power whatsoever in his hands at all. Like, he'd be the worst boxer ever. He'd get smoked by any, like Chisora just walk through him and break him. You saw what Ngannou did to Fury. I'm done shitting on Jones. That's what this is all about. I love this though. But what I'm saying is Blaydes does have power in his hands, and he can catch you coming in and put you away. And that's where Tom Aspinall's going to be in danger. He needs to fix the problem of leaving his chin up in the air while he throws a 1-2. I know he comes in and he throws it low and he throws it straight from the shoulder. I get that, but we need to lift them shoulders up and tuck that chin. That should be a focus point of this entire camp. Because we saw Blaydes tagging Pavlovich with that counter hook. It's how he put down Chris Dorcas. I know these are Dorcas and he's not the same, but still, he has the ability to do so. Aspinall needs to work on his chin being tucked when he bolts in for a 1-2. Other than that, I love this matchup for Tom Aspinall. I think he's going to win. One thing I will say is get ready for Jon Jones fans to see any moment of weakness in Tom Aspinall's game and act like he can't beat Jon Jones as if Reyes didn't beat Jones' fucking ass for 15 minutes of a 25-minute fight. They will show anything. I've seen them showing Arlovsky landing 2 punches on Aspinall. I've seen clips of that. Y'all think this guy beats John? Like Reyes didn't beat the fuck out of him. Santos didn't go to a split decision with him. Like, You know what I mean? If we really want to go on like moments people have been losing fights, there's more of it for Jones than there is for Aspinall. But what they're going to do is if Blaydes gets a takedown, or if Aspinall fails a takedown on Blaydes, or if Blaydes lands a few good shots, it honestly, Aspinall kind of has to be flawless, or the Jones fans are just going to absolutely say that he has no chance. Imagine if Jones gets that single leg that Aspinall stuffed. Like, you'll see Blaydes get a single leg, Aspinall might sprawl it immediately and separate, and then they'll be like, if Jones gets that, it's wraps. So we'll see how Aspinall approaches this one. A lot of pressure for him. Good situation for Blaydes. He's flying right under the radar here. No pressure on him whatsoever. I kind of like that this is the co-main event, because Aspinall's last memory of fighting in the UK, he was in a main event against Blaydes, and he absolutely shattered his leg, and he ruined his career basically for about a year or two. Now, it'd be a weird vibe for him going into another fight, another main event in Manchester. You know, title on the line, same opponent, the guy that you tore your ACL against last time. Like, it would be really bad. So I kind of like that this is a little bit under the radar in the co-main event. I don't mind that. And I also like the respect for the undisputed title being above it. We move on. Oh, so this is apparently why Gane didn't take the fight, because a lot of people were saying, you know, Gane's taking the fight. Even Curtis Blaydes was saying everyone's matched up at heavyweight right now other than Tybura. And I was like, hang on a second. They're doing Aspinall Blaydes, right? But no, apparently Blaydes, I guess, was hearing, okay, they're negotiating Aspinall Gane. Obviously, Gane's going to take it because it's for a world championship. So I'll just fight Tybura. And that's, I guess, what he was getting at in that interview without saying it out loud. But I guess Gane's turned it down. And we'll listen to why.
Me to fight Cyril Gane. I said, okay, the UFC want to do it, we can do it. I'm not bothered. I feel like I'm the champion of the world. I'm ranked #1 in the world. I'll fight anybody. You don't have to talk me into anything. UFC are my bosses. They want me to fight Cyril Gane. Count me in. That's okay.
Absolute UK Chad. Oh, God, it's so good to have him as a champ. Imagine being French and having Gane as your heavyweight representative right now. You know what I mean? So good being from the UK right now in combat sports, dude. These Chads holding it down. Now, let's have a listen.
We'll do it. Cyril, on the other hand, he's out there doing a film. Cyril is trying to be the French Arnold Schwarzenegger right now. And fair play to him. If he wants to do films and be an actor, go and enjoy yourself, Cyril. Go and do your thing. Make some money. Do whatever you're doing. But he didn't take the fight. He wanted to do his film, so...
Cyril Gane turns down Tom Aspinall to film a film. And you know why? I really believe this. We don't even know We've heard rumors of this and pictures of Gane on like a set somewhere. I don't know. I can't remember, but people have been posting stuff about him doing this film. Like, he's not saying Gane is scared. He's literally saying, no, Gane's filming a movie in Paris for Netflix right now, or something along those lines. So I think there's a legitimate reason. Gane turns down yet another top heavyweight matchup, even with a title on the line this time. I mean, it is what it is. At least we got someone focused on legacy and the future of the heavyweight division at heavyweight right now. And those people are called Tom Aspinall and Curtis Blaydes, as far as I'm concerned. They're the ones taking on the risks. They're the ones taking on the matchups. I mean, you know, Blaydes was the first one to welcome Pavlovich to the top. He's the guy who took on Jailton Almeida. I mean, they even took on each other. I know it ended in a weird way, but they still took on each other, Blaydes and Aspinall, when it needed to happen. Aspinall steps in on short notice to fight Pavlovich to save heavyweight again. Give it some life, give it some interest. That would have all fizzled out, and Pavlovich would be sat out for about 2 years by now. These guys are taking the risks to save the company. So I like that. I like it a lot. We move on, though, to something else. Bobby Green, Paddy Pimblett. I guess they're not doing the Moicano fight then. I guess they're not doing the Moicano fight because this is a big one. Huge fight. Bobby Green is definitely going to sell this one. I'm assuming he's going to be talking all kinds of shit in the build-up to Paddy Pimblett, and I think that'll do well because I think Pimblett's going to talk back. I don't think Pimblett's the kind of guy to just go at someone who's really nice. I don't think that's his style. I don't think he's going to Covington it and just sort of make something out of nothing. But if you're the type of fighter that's going to yap a little bit at him, which Bobby Green has already done, let's face it, then I'm sure he's going to welcome it and we're going to get some good press conference moments in the build-up. So I think this fight covers the press conference of UFC 304. Basically, right? That's what it does. It covers the press conference. Sick fight. Amazing matchup. I think Bobby Green beats him. Sorry, Pimblett. Listen, Pimblett, yeah. It's just you have one part of your game that I don't know exists yet. And you ain't proven it yet. So you can't blame me for not knowing it exists. I want to get behind Pimblett. He's from the UK. He's a UK lad. I want to support him. But the chin is a bit higher. And he boxes a lot. He likes to box, Pimblett. I don't like that against Bobby Green. People with their chins low get chinned by Bobby Green and get their head pinged back by Bobby Green, let alone people with their chins up high. I don't think Bobby Green's going to finish him like early TKO or anything like that. Jiu-Jitsu, Pimblett's got the advantage. Problem is, Bobby Green does have a wrestling background, and against anyone other than Makhachev on short notice when he was training for Nasrat Haqparast, who's not a grappler at all, never shot a takedown in his life, Bobby Green has had pretty good takedown defense, unanimously across the board against anyone other than Makhachev. So, it's going to be a tricky one for Pimblett. He does need to grapple, but my problem with Pimblett is, striking's iffy, but we know he's dangerous. He actually has really good kicks on the feet that I like, so I'd like for him to use them here as well. I think his kicks are the best part of his stand-up game, especially his front kick and his question mark kick. He has really good ones. I think he looked the best on the feet he's ever looked against Luigi Vendramini in his UFC career. Weird as that sounds, go back and watch that fight early. A lot of people were going, oh, because his hair was flapping around when Luigi would land a shot. But he was actually landing really good on Luigi in that fight, so check it back. But the one thing we haven't seen from Pimblett is the ability to get a takedown. We know he has trips, we know he has sweeps, we know he has hip tosses up against a cage and things like that. Like he used that against, I believe it was Jordan Levitt. It might not have been. No, I think it was Rodrigo Vargas he used that against, little hip toss up against a cage. But I just don't see that happening with Green. That would mean that Green's got to kind of be initiating in the clinch against him for him to get one of those because he needs a weight pushing against him to do it. I feel like Bobby Green, he's got the answer here. He can keep it where he wants, and that's where it's going to be. It's going to be on the feet. I just don't see Pimblett with good double legs or singles, and I think he needs them to get a Bobby Green type fighter down. Or he could shoot for the hips, get to the back, hooks in, try and standing back take, try and drag him down with back take. Like, we'll see, but I just think Green's got that wrestling instinct that might stop him from ending up in a bad position here. So I'm going to go with Bobby Green. Great matchup, though, nevertheless. We move on. Arnold Allen versus Giga Chikadze. And also, I guess that means Moicano versus Dariush, Moicano versus Dan Hooker. One of those matchups, we can only hope. Maybe even Gamrot. I know they train together, though, so maybe not. Allen versus Chikadze. I am going to go Arnold Allen, and you know what I'm going to go with Arnold Allen here? He's going to shoot a takedown and actually take down Giga Chikadze. He's a genius. I know he's a little bit autistic, but he's a genius, Arnold Allen is. A little bit dead behind the eyes. All good, though. He's good. Genius. He's not dumb. He's going to shoot double legs. He's going to shoot single legs. He's going to try and get Giga Chikadze down. Austin Springer got down Giga Chikadze and submitted him. Calvin Kattar got down Giga Chikadze and spent an entire round on top of him. Arnold Allen is a more well-rounded fighter than any of those two opponents. I think he needs to use his grappling here. Arnold Allen, if you're not shooting double legs or single legs in this fight, you don't care about your career as far as I'm aware. Okay? You've got to stand up to hang with him. You've got to stand up to potentially beat him. You don't need to risk it at all against a guy like Giga Chikadze. And if you are going to shoot takedowns, it's going to make the stand-up way easier for you. So I am going to go with Arnold Allen. I actually like that Allen's been active recently, and I thought he could have beaten Movsar Evloev, and I think that's a huge win. So I thought he beat Movsar Evloev. Obviously, had a good scrap against Holloway in hindsight. You know what I mean? Holloway's gone up, done what he did against Gaethje. He kind of looked better than Gaethje against Holloway, dare I say. In moments, right? Technically, maybe not on the scorecards across the first 2 or 3 rounds, but I didn't see Arnold Allen getting wobbled all over the place in round 3 and 4 and 5. I saw him got dropped once at the end off balance. He popped right back up. Popped right back up against Max to embrace at the end of the fight. So I think he did quite well, and I think he'll beat Giga Chikadze. Another fight, the big one, Makhachev versus Cap. I am going to go with Manel Cap. I think one of the best parts of Manel Cap's game is explosive and dynamic takedown defense. He's been fighting good grapplers his entire career, and you know what? Yeah, he's had the grappling shown to him that he needs to work on it since Rising, since Kyoji Horiguchi, since opponents like this. I think even Kai Asakura was taking him down a lot of times at Rising or had takedowns on him. So he's learned to defend takedowns. We don't see him spend time on bottom position. He has great scrambles. I think he has better takedown defense than Alex Perez. We don't know that for sure, but if Alex Perez can do that, I think Manel Kape is a much better shot finder. He's the type of guy that will catch you with a flying knee. He's the type of guy that will catch you with something slick and put you out of nowhere. I know Perez just put away Nicolau. I get it, but Perez typically isn't that guy more than Kape is. So I will go with Manel Kape here over Muhammad Mokaev. Muhammad Mokaev, still a young fighter. We have to remember that. Even though he's looked shit in every fight he's ever had, other than the fight with Cody Durden, he's looked absolute shit in every single one of them. We've got to remember he's a very young fighter who's building a resume, who's building experience. So the more time these guys give him, if he can scrape by another one here, he's buying himself time. He's buying himself 6 months to work and improve as a fighter. So this is interesting, but I'm leaning towards Manel Kape right now. What else is there? The full card right here. Oh, matchups that I want to see added to the card. So we've got Edwards Muhammad main event, Aspinall Blaydes co-main event, Bobby Green Paddy Pimblett feature fight, Muhammad Mokaev Manel Kape fourth fight, Arnold Allen Giga Chikadze to open up the card. On the prelims, we've got Molly McCann. We've got other fighters. I think Nathaniel Wood is on the prelims against Daniel Pineda. Great matchups. There's some fighters that I want added to this card. There's a lot of talent in the UK right now, and I thought I'd take some time at the end of the video to highlight some of them. Jordan Vucenic, Cage Warriors, featherweight, dangerous, former champ, arguably should be the champ right now. I don't know why he's not fighting for the belt. He beat Morgan Charriere. He's 1-1 with Paul Hughes, one of the best free agents on the market until he signed with PFL, unfortunately. Don't make the same mistake, UFC. Stop letting PFL poach this talent. Get a hold of Jordan Vucenic. He's coming off a long win streak. He was on a good win streak before he fought Paul Hughes. In the rematch, he got cut early in that fight, and it kind of changed the way that fight looked because it was a really bad cut. Even though it was a loss, he got cut really badly early in that fight. I'm not saying that he wouldn't have lost the fight if not for the cut, but we saw in the previous fights that he's very good at getting back up off of his back. He's good at scrambling. He's safe on bottom position. And I think he got sliced open really bad, if I remember correctly, early in the fight. And you could see the blood just getting in his eyes when he was on bottom position. And it sort of let Hughes get to where he needed to go in the grappling with his top pressure. You know what I mean? He got to the back. He got to mount in some moments as well where, I don't know, I feel like if he wasn't cut early, it wouldn't have happened that way. Either way, he lost. I'm not coping. He's on another win streak since then. Put together a bunch of wins in a row. I think he's UFC ready. And he beat Charriere, and you guys signed Charriere, man. Charriere's had, 3 fights in the UFC now? Vucenic beat him years ago. And he's done nothing but win since, other than against Paul Hughes, who also beat Charriere. So sign Jordan Vucenic. And if you want to say, maybe he's not ready, maybe he needs one more, maybe he needs contender series, put him against Harry Hardwick, another fighter, George Hardwick's brother. George Hardwick's coming back, okay? He's going to make it to the UFC someday. I don't want to hear about it. I know I'm coping. But either way, I know I was talking about George Hardwick for 5 years before he even got to the fucking UFC, and then he fumbled on the contender series. I get it. But he's got a brother that's more autistic than him. And his name is Harry Hardwick. Just had an opponent fall out. This is one of the recent posts. Just had an opponent pull out. Look at this man. Autism. Retardation. This is what we need in the UFC right now. So if he beats his opponent in May, which is where this fight's taking when this fight's taking place, who I think is a good opponent again. I think he's like 14-4 or 3 or something like that, like a respectable record. He'll be on a good win streak. He'd have won the Cage Warriors belt. And I think you should do him versus Vucenic in the UFC. Even if it's to open up the early prelims. This is the spotlight to put some of these guys on. Vucenic, Harry Hardwick against each other. This is the matchup. And Harry Hardwick is funny. He's autistic. He is. I don't even think I'm saying that as an insult. I think he is. And we need that in the UFC right now, man. That's promotion. That's pay-per-view gold right there. Okay? We need some of that autistic energy in the UFC now and then. You know what I mean? That's what we need. So I think they need Harry Hardwick and his mild autism in the promotion on the early prelims. Super fun style. Sort of like a Holloway-ish style, but he has more like opportunistic submission attempts and like grappling exchanges as well. Like his last fight was a really nasty back take. So I like Harry Hardwick. Get him in the UFC and have him fight Jordan Vucenic if he beats his next opponent on the early prelims. That's a big matchup. And also, last but not least, Luke Riley needs to be on this card. Fighter of the Year 2023. Breakthrough Fighter of the Year 2021 on the come up, of course. Fight of the Year 2023. I think that was against Alexander Loof or whatever his name was. 75% finish rate, 6 knockouts. Featherweight is now 9-0. He won a fight since this post was made. I just wanted to get something that represented any stats that he had. He's 9-0 now. Just beat another opponent. Wicked highlight reel that he got against him as well. It went viral on social media, so he's now got quite a bit of a following. Or he did before, but that post got a hell of attention on social media. It was all over anyone's Explore page, I imagine, for a few weeks if you're an MMA fan. He's 9-0. Give him a fight in the UFC against someone on the early prelims on that Manchester card. Have him go 10-0 in the UFC if he gets that debut win. We'll see. But that's what I want to happen. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. That's a breakdown of all the fights and some fights they should add on. See you later. Goodbye.